What's up, everyone? We're going to be working on Slick Rick again today. We're going to be addressing all the welding on the cold pipe. But before we do that, I want to tell you about our Black Friday sale that we have every year. You guys that have followed the business for many years know that we only do one sale per year, and that is 2 weeks leading up to Black Friday. So this year is going to be no different. We're going to have 2 discount codes. Because the cost of our chromoly has went up substantially and we've kind of stuck to our guns on our prices throughout the whole year, we're not going to be able to offer the full 15% like we normally do on the roll cages, but we are going to offer that 15% on everything else because they obviously are less cost, less material involved items. So this is how it's going to work. If you're going to not buy a roll cage in your order and you want the 15% off on all the Rock Solid Motorsports branded products, meaning the stuff that we make here in-house, not stuff that we sell third party, your discount code, as always, is just Black Friday, one word, all lowercase. I don't think the capitals even matter anyway, but all lowercase, Black Friday, to get 15% off all the RSM made products. So, except roll cages. So if you're going to get a roll cage in your order and you still want, because our website's set up to only use one discount code, so it's only going to let you use one. So the way we have it set up is if you're ordering a roll cage in with your other stuff, the discount code for that is Black Friday roll cage, all one word, no spaces. This will get you 10% off your entire order, including the roll cage. So say you're ordering a roll cage, a tube front, maybe one of our small fuel cells, you'll use the Black Friday roll cage discount code. That'll give you 10% off the whole order. The website is going to cap off the shipping once it hits a certain tier, so it don't matter how much you stack in your cart, it's still going to only charge you, I think the maximum is $250 shipping, which is the flat rate for all roll cages if you don't order anything else with them. So it was mentioned in the comments on the last video that I should say something about it, and I usually wait until about 2 weeks leading up to the sale to even mention it, just so people can plan accordingly and stuff. But this is your chance to save a lot of money because roll cage, you know, depending on what variation you get, some of those get pretty expensive. We've got the 25.5, 90%. That's up near $3,000, which has, I think, 42 different part numbers, bars and stuff, besides the plates and stuff that come with that cage. So make sure to plan for that if you're going to stock up for the build season on any of our products, because that's coming up and it is scheduled to start November 15th and it will go all the way through midnight November 29th. So the discount codes throughout all this explanation will be on the screen somewhere. I don't know where I'll put them, but they'll be there, so make sure to catalog that in your mind. And I'll say some more stuff about it in the videos leading up to that, and I'll put some social media posts out and stuff, but this is your first announcement about the sale coming up. So in today's video, we're gonna do all the welding on the cold side, and I'm gonna try to get pretty much everything done on the cold pipe today. We've got to go to the next town over and pick up a big laser order and stuff here in about 30 minutes actually, so when I get back, I'll have to get started on all this. But we've got our 5-inch dual seal clamp from Race Parts Solutions. I have this next day aired here where I could work on it today because our UPS sometimes don't come. It's anywhere from lunchtime until like 4 o'clock. So I want to make sure I had this so I could get some work done on this thing today. So we're going to take our little spacer off. We're going to put this in its place, and then we're going to refit this pipe and make sure we got it the way we want it. This little spacer here I will take out, and this will be a solid piece of pipe all the way down to where it breaks over off the bend right here. The tangent, I believe, is the technical name. So the blow-off valve is probably going to go off the side somewhere right here. I'm not sure where, but it's got to be at the lower end here because your injectors are going to be up here, and you don't want your blow-off valve anywhere near your injectors because then when your throttle blade closes, it's going to spray methanol out everywhere. So with the weld being right here and your blow-off valve being somewhere in this area, it's gonna distract you from seeing that weld around there, and it'll look nice and slick going all the way up through there. I think Dieter's is gonna polish this stuff anyway, so it don't really matter that much. It might be overthought, but that's just the way I do things. So let's get this thing off, get this flange tacked on the reducer, and get started before we have to leave. All right, this is my mock-up process. When you're dealing with a dual seal like this, if you don't have the O-rings on, which I usually don't during mock-up, this ring doesn't hold really tight against these without the O-rings. So when you're mocking it up, it's good to use some tape and tape these things together where they're even with each other. That way you know that they're going to be lined up. Because if you put that ring on there, one might be that way, one might be the other way just a little bit, and you'll never know it until you take it apart and you've already got it tacked together. So this is ready to come off now and do the final welding around these main parts. So that's what we're going to do. A lot of people have asked me about this Everlast welder. I'm going to show you what settings I'm running on it, just for the pictures I've posted online and stuff, and the videos that I've done. So right now I've got it on program 2, which is my production aluminum run program. The amps, I usually leave it on 175 because that's pretty well will cover anything as far as tanks, fittings, stuff like that. It's not really heavy. The frequency, I'm doing about 180. That's kind of the happy medium for me. That keeps the arc pulled in a good bit for fittings and stuff, but it's not too wide, it's not too skinny. On the balance, I'm running 31 on the balance. I like it on the negative side because I'm usually working with really clean material. I really don't need any kind of cleaning. So I run it pretty negative where the penetration is pretty high, so I don't have to really get after it a lot to get the penetration. I'm not using any kind of pulse or anything. Ending amps 10, that's pretty standard. And I do my post flow on the AC, I do 7 seconds, because your tungsten will stay a lot cleaner if you can keep the argon flowing over it until it cools all the way down. And since AC usually puts a lot of heat in it, I do the post flow pretty long. That way it keeps that tungsten covered good while it's cooling down, and that'll make it where you don't have to grind your tungsten as much because it won't blacken up. The starting amps, I do 10 amps, just the lowest it'll go. And I don't have any kind of upslope or anything. That's pretty much it. And as far as the waveform, I do the advanced square. I've tried all the other ones, and I think it kind of weakens the arc down, which I think it's supposed to make them like some of the old machines and stuff with them other styles, but I don't mess with none of that. So that's basically it. As far as the tungsten, I'll show you over here. I use white tungsten, I don't know the technical name, but 3/32 on anything production. If I'm doing like an intake or something like that, I'll do 1/8 inch tungsten. Use anything between a 8 and a number 4 cup, depending on what I'm doing. I don't go bigger than an 8, and I don't go smaller than a 4. I always use these cheap little standard cups. I don't use any kind of glass or anything on the aluminum. Aluminum's really hard on stuff, so I'm not going to use a finicky cup I'm going to use something that's going to really take the heat, because I like to weld as long as I can without lifting. Sometimes that might be 12 or 14 inches, and that's pretty hard on them. You can see, if the camera will focus, you can see how the tungsten is kind of just barely glassed over the end. That's because I'm running a pretty good amount of negative balance, or I've got the balance pretty low. If I turn the balance up, it would try to ball a lot more, but I like it to glass over like that, but I don't like it to get any bigger than the tungsten itself whenever it does, because that keeps it where the arc can be pinpointed a lot more, and it's not as wide and wandering around. And this welder, the only vice I've got on this welder is it doesn't start up too good. You can notice in the video, if I show you an actual real time instead of doing time lapse of the welding part, you can hear it. It kind of sounds like tearing paper. It goes, you know, the arc's just kind of going everywhere until it settles down, or else it struggles to get started. And with my Dynasty, it never was like that. I could put the tungsten almost to the material, but not quite touching it, and hit the pedal, and it would start up so smooth you couldn't even hear it. But this one kind of struggles to start. So I think if they could improve anything on this welder, it would be the high frequency start. It needs to be a little bit stronger or something. 'Cause I've always got a good ground. I mean, it don't matter if you ground it to the actual thing you're welding, or if you ground it to the table or whatever, it still does it. But that's just showing the settings I've got on the welder. As far as the gas, I usually run around 30 on the flow. Some people say that's too high for aluminum. I don't really care what the standard thing to do is or whatever. I'm just telling you what I do. So gas lens up inside here, stubby, and that's about it. So let's get over here and start welding this thing. Okay, we got everything welded up, at least the main parts. That door will not stay shut. It's making me mad. Did pretty good. You'll notice the pipe's a lot shinier now. I took it back there to the belt polisher that we got and just cleaned it up a little bit before I welded it. Just helps it look consistent. I take a lot of pictures and stuff of the builds, and most of the time I don't like a dirty pipe on there. So I don't think it really benefits anything welding it, sanding it like this, because if anything, you got to watch it because you'll embed the sanding material into the aluminum, and then it'll actually make it dirtier. But I started out with a fresh pad back there and wiped it down with acetone and stuff before I started. But you'll see on these flanges, I did inside and out. Inside don't look quite as pretty as the outside, obviously, because it's a little bit funky, the joint in there. You might have noticed in the video I actually did 2 passes around here, but I did the 1 pass around the outside, and then I did the inside, which didn't do the inside right there because it kind of goes back over the flange and I didn't want to melt it through, so I just did 3/4 around. On the outside of the bend is the thinnest part of the material, so right here where it meets the flange is super thin. So what happened when I welded the inside around there, it made the outside look really chalky and kind of brittle looking. So I just started at the back and went all the way around again and freshened up the look, built the weld up a little bit thicker, makes it a little bit stronger. Now this side I didn't go around the outside again because it really wasn't needed. The turbo compressor, you'll notice it's got the reducer on there. I was welding both at one time. I'd weld the flange to the reducer and then the reducer to the turbo, and I'd chase it all the way around like that. Did pretty good. Got just a little bit hot right there, but you notice it looks kind of clean. I actually went back with a wire brush and kind of wire brushed the etching off the aluminum just to make it look better for pictures. That's pretty much it. All this stuff's gonna be polished, so it doesn't really matter what I do to clean it, because Joe's gonna throw the magic on it and all that's gonna be gone anyway. So I'm gonna put it back on the car, and then we'll address the blow-off valve and injectors and try to get an idea where those are placed. I'm not gonna have time to do any of that today, and tomorrow being Saturday, I'm not sure I'll get up here to mess with it, but I'll still continue this video with the completion of the cold pipe, probably starting back again Monday. I will say before I get started on all the rest of the welding with the blow-off valve and stuff, John did contact me a couple days ago, and he had been trying to do his homework on this intake piping. He actually called VED, the manufacturers of this intake, and spoke to them about the concern about the pipe size, and not really a concern, but the big debate, the internet joke that's been going around since I put that video up about changing it. And just wanted to throw that out there because some of the comments have been pretty brutal towards John, but hey, we can't give him no slack. No, we have to be like that. But I will say that he did do his homework, and he did call and speak to them about the combo. And they did say that this was the better option, going with the bigger pipe, because according to their research and development with this intake, this oval part of the throttle body, or where it transitions to oval, will actually flow more than the 5-inch adapter from their testing, and is an extension of the intake plenum. So having the bigger pipe will allow more air to get there, obviously. And I don't think this turbo will struggle to feed any air into the engine. So just wanted to clear that up. Sometimes I like to stir the pot a little bit with things that I haven't seen on paper back-to-back tested. And still, it's one of those things that mathematically everything should improve, but whether it does or not, you just pretty much have to do the best you can for each build, because on paper it might say that it should improve and that it should flow better and everything, but maybe strapping it on the dyno or going down the track, you might not see any increase, but you just do the best you can. So that's where we're going to leave it on that. It's been fun joking around about it, but now we're going to weld some blow-off valves and stuff on them. So here we go. Okay, so we got the blow-off valve in position. I've talked with them. This is, we agree this is the best spot for it, you know, visually, and you know, with what else we got going on. I've already put the front end on, made sure that there wasn't any clearance issues with the tree right here. So what I've done, I have traced around the flange where it's going to be welded, and obviously because we want it flat like this, we're going to have to take some material off of this side, because this side's got a huge gap on the bottom where the pipe rolls around. So we'll get that trimmed up on the bench. I also traced the inside of the hole, because sometimes I weld the flange on before I cut the hole. Just depends on if I've got a hole saw that's will go inside of here pretty good. If I don't, sometimes I cut the hole out before I weld it on, so it can go either way. I will say something about this blow-off valve. It's pretty big, but it's got a position sensor in it. So what they're gonna do with that is, since you got fuel spraying in the cold pipe here, you're gonna have 3 injectors in the cold pipe. This will allow them to control or to see that this valve is closed. So they can control this with a separate MAC valve, where it will keep the valve closed for like a fraction of a second after they lift on the throttle. That way it'll scavenge all the fuel out of this pipe, in theory, and keep it from blowing out this. Because 3 injectors in this short of a pipe, it's going to be like spraying a water hose of fuel. It doesn't matter how you position them or whatever. If they're aimed toward the throttle body, it doesn't matter. When that throttle blade shuts, that fuel's going to hit that thing, and it's still going to have to, it's still going to scavenge a lot. So you want it to scavenge all that fuel out of the pipe before this opens, so it don't spray all over the hot pipes. So that's pretty cool. They're going to be using it like that. They can also crack this thing open whenever they're on the trans brake, and that will allow the turbo to spool up faster, because it's not really seeing any kind of resistance, because it's got a major boost leak here. So when they get up to near the desired boost they want, they can shut this, and it just makes it spool a lot faster when you got a turbo this big. So a lot of things you can do having a position sensor in there. I'm not really used to dealing with these, but the more data you have, the more things you can see, the better you can dial in the car. So that's pretty smart on their part to do a valve like this. So we're going to get this thing over on the bench and get this flange trimmed up and get it welded on. Well, that finishes up the cold side. Just give you a little walk around here of how it turned out. Our injector right there, hanging straight down. I think it was the best choice to put this on the driver's side. I know we went back and forth with some ideas, and we all kind of agreed that this would be the most visually pleasing place to put it. With the position sensor on there, it's several inches taller than the Gen 5 blow-off valves that I usually use. So it's harder to get that thing in a spot that's pleasing to the eye on a setup like this, especially when you're having to have it so far towards the turbo versus throwing it up here or something, because you have the injectors and stuff to consider. So that's going to wrap up this video for the cold side. The next video, I don't know what I'll be doing. It'll either be hot side, down pipe, fuel cell mock-up. There's still a handful of stuff that's, or a handful of things that still got to be done. So thanks for watching, subscribe, and we'll get you another update maybe here in another week or so. Thanks, guys.